All right, we are live. We are here today to talk about the December 2021 foreclosure auction, what you need to know, what to expect, and some of the big questions that we get from our members. So we're excited for to talk about the auction today, last auction of 2021, and what a roller coaster year 2021 has been. Just from I think from an anticipation standpoint, and just wondering what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next? I mean, I think at the beginning of the year we thought, hey, February we're going to see 1,000 postings a month in Dallas County again, and or Bear County again, and we've still yet to see that. So, uh, very interesting year. We're excited to close out the 2021 year, and we've got a lot of good indicators that say 2022 is going. Both the real estate market and the foreclosure market are going to continue to get better. So, I'm Curtis Roddy. I'm here with Paul Rana, our VP of Operations, and Jack Zagunis, our VP of Customer Success. And we're here to talk about the December auction. So, welcome, guys. Welcome everybody that's watching today. First, let's hop into just talk about some of these like the new stats from 2021. Right, we've got. I think the exciting thing. Paul and I were talking before this. We're talking about stats in December. We're like across the board, we are way up in postings, and I guess way up is relative if we still look at 2019 or not. But um, month over month, we're up like 10%, across the board. And if we look at just individual counties, there's a lot of the bigger counties that are up 20% this month. So, Paul, can you talk a little bit about where we're seeing some of those bigger increases? I know it seemed like just some of our bigger counties were up. Where are you seeing that?
That's right, Curtis. We are we are definitely up month over month. The past several months,
Yeah,
we're seeing numbers that we haven't seen since April 2020. So we're getting back to those pre-pandemic numbers, which is very exciting. I mean, these are things that we thought might have happened in January of 2021 or in February, but they're finally happening. For example, in Dallas, there are 187 postings for December. That's up 27 from last month. In Harris, there's 432. So that's up 56 from last month. And from Bear, they just hit 220 postings. That's up 47 from last month. So there's some real good increases across the board. And even those are some big dramatic ones, but Collin, Comal, Denton, uh, El Paso, Ellis, Travis, they're all up across the board. So lots of
yeah.
opportunity for our investors.
And I think that the encouraging thing there is that month over month for the past 4 months, we've seen an increase in posting, right? It's not,
And in sales.
you know, yeah, and like properties that are actually showing up to the auction, right? Before that, it seemed like we'd have an increase and we get excited, and then big decrease, an increase, and I mean, what a roller coaster it's been for that. So, just there's a couple of cool reports that came out over the past month or two. One is really from the Mortgage Bankers. Both of these are from the Mortgage Bankers Association. I got to participate in a panel with them in Phoenix over the last week, and just talking a little bit about what's going on the national scale was pretty interesting. So this time last month, we had uh, forbearance. The percentage of loans that were in forbearance was 6%. So of those 6%, about 20% were there was some sort of risk for foreclosure. Um, as of the end of November, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association, that's all the way down to 2%, and we've seen a decrease every single week since Q2 of 21. So we're not seeing this huge wave of there's this huge, like we were talking, this phantom wave of foreclosures, this inventory that was building up because all these people were in default and they weren't going to be able to pay. But it looks like what's happening is people are getting on terms with their, everybody's got a job now, it seems like, and everyone's on terms with this forbearance plan. And so really interesting stuff. I'm going to share my screen real quick and just compare where we are to 2020, or over the past 20 or 30 years, and look at the last recession and make sure I share the right screen. All right, you guys see my graph here? So again, this is from the Mortgage Bankers Association. What we saw in 2008, 2009 during the last Great Recession, this huge increase in job unemployment, followed by an increase in loans that were past due, right? And we all know what happened then. We saw the real estate market tumble. And then we see this weird thing in 2021 where this huge spike to like 18, 19% unemployment. And then all of a sudden, and then the same thing with loans in forbearance. But quickly, we've seen that trend come back down. And so I just think the interesting thing here, when you just look over the past 50 years, is that it looks like the market's saying we're coming, we're going to keep these delinquencies low as long as our unemployment rates are this low, and it's this, I guess, quote unquote, easy to find a traditional job. Then, you know, I would expect that 2022 delinquencies are going to stay low, and kind of trend with that unemployment rate. So you just look all the way back to the 1980s, our unemployment rate's almost always been higher than our past due loan rates. And so we just see, but you also see that interesting correlation, especially after over the past 30 years where we've had these rates track each other. So something pretty interesting there. Now, for real estate investors, the more exciting part is, or the exciting part is that Fannie Mae and it seems like the government-backed loans are starting to release the vacant inventory that they had. So there were a lot of properties in early 2020 that were vacant and that they were scheduled to actually be foreclosed on, and they haven't been foreclosed on all the way through. I mean, now we're looking at almost 2 years since then. And so all indications from Fannie Mae and from some of the other bigger mortgage associations are that January, February, we're going to start seeing foreclosures come back online for vacant properties. So that kind of wraps that up. Paul, any other, I guess the only, we're also starting to see foreclosures at the auction pick back up, just the sheer volume of properties. Can you talk a little bit about that? Where are we seeing more postings, and any indicator that we're going to continue to see that?
Sure. We mentioned that briefly just a little bit before that news report there, but we're up month over month. All of our major counties are up, some 20%, some like 40%. Pretty much across the board: Baird, Dallas, Denton, Collin, Harris, Travis. So there's a lot of opportunities for our subscribers. And another exciting thing, like Curtis said, is not only are the federal loans opening up, but all the eviction restrictions have been lifted as well. So that makes a big difference with what's coming to auction.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we get questions every month about what's going on with evictions. What are we seeing with evictions? I mean, we're in eviction court, at least once or twice a month, and we're not having any issues anymore with filing or anything like that. So, all indications are that we're kind of getting a little bit closer to where we were. I don't know if we'll see the volume increase anytime soon to where to pre-pandemic levels, but everything seems to be trending up for 2022. I guess kind of moving in onto just what can our members expect at the auction, how to prepare for the auction. Paul, can you go through, what does tonight look like for most of those people? What kind of preparations need to be made? And then also when we get to the auction tomorrow, what are you encouraging our members to do?
Sure. That's something we always want to review. I was just on chat today with one of our fairly new investors who's bidding tomorrow, and he wasn't sure about his cashier's checks, for example.
Yeah.
He wasn't sure who to make them out to, denominations. And this is something we mention every month, is today is your time to go get those cashier's checks. Tomorrow's probably too late, or you're going to be cutting it real close. So I would suggest go get those cashier's checks in various denominations. That way, in case you can bid on multiple properties, you can get as close as you can to your top bid. And make them out to yourself or to your DBA or to your LLC. And the trustee will direct you how to sign them over. And you also want to bring your ID, of course, and anything that shows that you're able to bid on behalf of that company.
Yeah, I think there's some of the bigger trustees, at least in North Texas, we run into this every month, is they, I might own Curtis Roddy Company. It's not a real company, so don't buy anything in that name. I might own Curtis Roddy Company 100%. It might be called Curtis Roddy Company and Curtis owns it, LLC. But when you get to that, if you're bidding with your LLC, make sure that you have company docs, you have some sort of POA that says Curtis Roddy can bid for Curtis Roddy Company, and it's authorized by Curtis Roddy and his company to bid on that. It seems silly and ludicrous sometimes, but man, I've been close to losing big deals before because I didn't have the HOA the POA,
POA.
or the POA didn't have the right information in it. So if you
Yep,
need
it's
help
quite
with
simple.
that, yeah, it can be
Quite
very
simple, but
simple.
super important.
Yeah, if you need help with that, make sure reach out to Jack or Paul today. They'll be happy to give you some information. I'm sure we have a template somewhere.
Yes, sir.
But we can't give legal advice, so that's not legal advice. We're not going to provide any legal information, just suggestions on what we may or may not do. So
that's one big thing to prep today, right? They also want
Hey,
to.
Paul, let me before
Yes,
we get on. Sorry, I want to make sure Paul touched on getting cashier's checks, right? Like the importance of getting cashier's checks and getting them early and getting them today. I remember the first time I was supposed to go get cashier's checks, I thought I would just go to the bank, almost like going to an ATM where it takes 5 minutes to get those out. It is not that easy. It could take. I mean, there's some banks take an hour to 2 hours to get you all your cashier's checks, because what you do is you go there, you have to show them your docs, you have to prove your identity, and then you say, yes, I want one $20,000 check, and then they do that transaction. Now, so if you're getting $500,000 and you're getting 20 different checks, it could take you, again, like I said, an hour to 2 hours. So, I would suggest watch this video and then go straight to the bank and get those cashier's checks before they close for the day. Sorry, Paul, I just wanted to make sure that was something that stuck out to me last month, where it took me an hour to get checks out of the bank.
Yep, I've had that problem before where it's 9:45 and I'm like, I got to get to auction right now.
Yeah, it's not something you can just swing through the drive-through lane for.
No, sir. So there's a number of other things to prepare tonight. You should have all of your lists ready. I suggest lists sorted by ID sort. That way, when the Roddy auction members call off your property, you can find it really quickly. I also suggest saving it as a PDF on your phone, ideally Google Drive. I like doing that because you can search really quick on it using any field. Pack your car with everything you need tonight, a chair, check for the weather, right? I even lay out my clothes. I'm that kind of guy where I wake up really early, but I have everything laid out so I don't have to think about anything in the morning. Because you do not want to forget something important, right? Pack a lunch, pack a snack, pack water, because you're going to be there all day and you don't really want to take that break and potentially miss out on a property. And also make sure that you have a location map. Know where you're going. If it's somewhere new, it might take a while to find parking. It might take a while to find where that location is. So use our resources on the website under auction locations. It's on the right-hand side on that menu, right? Left-hand side, but this part of the screen.
Yeah, Paul mentioned like making sure you're ready for auction. One of the other things, I mean, I think in like Central Texas, we're supposed to get a little bit of the cold front. I know I keep seeing something about Killeen having a freeze warning, which is Bell County. So I just be ready for that. Make sure that there's nothing worse than just sitting outside the auction all day, freezing and you're wet or something like that. So just make sure that you're ready for that. And like Paul said, I really like the idea of making sure that you get your you got your list ready, that you have everything ready to go in your bag. The Paul might have already mentioned this, but I'll say it again. That list that has the ID numbers and it's kind of sorted by trustees is called the auction brief report. So if you go on our website, you can select that. There's about 30 different formats you can download. Again, if you have questions about downloading any of these reports or anything like that, make sure you just get on chat or call Jack or Paul. We'll make sure to get you those reports tonight so you're ready to go tomorrow. So, Paul, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that we encourage people to do the night before? I guess the other thing I would say is just talking about auction status. Can you tell? We're going to be updating auction statuses all the way through tomorrow morning, but today we're going to see this big dump of updated statuses. Can you talk a little bit about that and how to find that information?
I would really suggest around 6 p.m. to re-download your lists, whether using the auction brief report by trustee or the ID sort for the whole list. Re-download it so that you can check for live updates. The live updates, we use our contacts with trustees, with banks, with law firms to see if a property has been canceled, if it's still pending, or if there's a new bid available, or if the bid's been updated. So you're going to see a lot of those change today. And where now is a new free value-added feature, we are updating those live throughout auction all day long. We've got multiple teams updating every hour. So you can check on your mobile site. You can go on your tablet or your computer or your phone and see if something's changed. Likewise, tomorrow during sales, we're going to update the sales and the struck-off list as they occur live on site.
Yeah, that's a great point, Paul. I mean, just an example of, I was at Bell County 2 or 3 months ago. I noticed that one of my properties got canceled, and we were like, hey, where should we go? Originally, we were like, hey, let's go to Williamson County. We'll go monitor sales out there. Pulled up the status report, and I think our team had literally just updated it 10 minutes prior, and all those sales have been canceled. So I don't think we're going to see nearly as many canceled sales this month, but that's just a good example. You don't want to drive from 45 minutes to get to an auction just to show up and find out that your sales have been canceled. Again, check in the morning before you leave to go to the auction, and make sure you're ready to go.
That's right. Anytime you're about to switch counties and go somewhere else for the afternoon, definitely check your status, because this will let you know exactly what has sold or what is going to sell.
Yep. All right, Jack, Mr. Zagunis. We get a lot of the same questions all day, or every month, really. And I think there's a little bit of confusion sometimes on just what the auction looks like. Can you go through maybe the top questions that you get about auctions from our customers?
Yeah, so a lot of people, they'll look at the list and they just won't know how to interpret the list. We have so many different categories and so many things on there. Some of the most important things, of course, the legal description and the address of the property. We're not going to give you what would be called the after repaired value, but we're going to tell you what the tax value is on that report, and we're also going to show you roughly what the loan should be paid down to. I typically go by the loan year. The year was taken out. So if it's an FHA loan from 2020 or just last year, they only put 3.5% down probably. They probably don't have enough equity really for me to do a fix and flip. But if it's a conventional loan from 5 or 6 years ago or further, then that's one I'm definitely going to highlight on my list. So I would go by loan year when I'm looking at my top prospects. And then, if your list is not full enough, meaning that you don't have enough properties that you're looking at, then you can start branching out to some of those newer loans. Second thing people ask is, how do I determine value of what a property is worth? You have to do what's called the CMA. So you have to get good data of what the homes in the area have sold for, determine how close yours is to those, and subtract a little or add a little to that. And then basically you can figure out what it could be sold for when you're ready to resell it. And then you just backtrack your profit and your buy cost. And then lastly, one thing that we see a lot is, I can't think of the last thing. I just had it in my head. But anyway, those are the two big things. How do I determine value? And then checks like Paul covered. And then how do I read this list? So.
Awesome. And we'll kind of, we'll talk a little bit back and forth with Paul. I can't tell if he's frozen on our computer. He's frozen on my screen. I'm not sure if he's frozen on your screen, Jack, but there you are. Yeah. All right, you're back.
It was awesome. Weird. It froze?
Yeah, it was frozen for a
strange. Okay.
Or you were just in a trance listening to Jack. I'm not sure. I guess if anybody was going to do it, it'd be Ninja Paul. So, all right, Jack, people get to the auction. Sometimes we've got questions about interpreting the list. Trustees, for example, like the trustees are not always going to be the same. How do people find trustees? What do you tell people about that?
Well, what I tell people is the trustee can change. We're going to write down who signed the foreclosure notice, but the trustee can change. One thing that can't change is the time. So say you're going for a property that's from 10 to 1, a different trustee can read it during that time, but you don't want to show up, but a trustee can't show up at 2 technically and read the property. So it will be still during that time period. When you get there, look for people with the red shirts on. They will help guide you. And, when a trustee shows up, you can sometimes peek at their list and see what they're about to foreclose on. And if your property's on there, then stick around, even if it's not the one that's on our list.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, Paul, you can attest to this. Each auction is different, right? Like you can go to Bell County and there's almost never going to be more than one auction going on at once. Where you go to Dallas or Sharon or Bear County, you could have 4 or 5. I know Paul and I are going to Bear County tomorrow. We're excited about that. One thing is like, there's going to be 4 or 5 trustees going at the same time. And so, get to the auction early, find the people in red, like Jack talked about, kind of know what you're trying to do. Like if you're in Dallas County, I would say you need to go talk to Sheila and say, hey, I'm looking for X trustee. And, Sheila's going to be able to tell you everything she knows about, let's say Shelly Ortolani. Shelly Ortolani gets there. She sets up in the southwest corner. She's going to have a chair. There's going to be all these people around her. She'll tell you everything. And she's also going to announce when Shelly gets there.
Right.
And so it's just like knowing it's hard to describe, but man, every auction's so different in the way that it is. So you could get to Dallas and you need to know where that trustee is going to be. So do what you need to do to figure out where that trustee is going to be. Whereas you go to like Hayes County or Comal County where there's like one trustee going on at once, I'm a little bit less worried about finding that trustee because it's going to be very obvious and very easy. But with exception of some of the bigger ones that are more organized, like Harris or El Paso, I'd say make sure if it's a big county like Dallas, Tarrant, Bear, what are some of the other bigger ones? Travis sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Get there, make sure you talk to the people, our team on site, and figure out and let them know who you're looking for. We also will announce trustees as they happen or as they come up. And then some of the smaller ones you might find out, hey, I'm here for trustee John Smith, and we might have Kim Van Steenberg and Bear County say, hey, John actually doesn't show up until 12 o'clock usually, so be prepared around 12 to hear that. So Paul, anything else to add to that?
Just reaffirming what you said there. The number one thing when you show up after you get parked is show up and talk to our teams in red. They are the experts. As you said, each county is different.
Yeah.
They're the experts. They'll know where trustees are. They know when trustees show up. They might have their phone numbers.
Yeah.
So definitely check in with our team first.
Yeah. And then, you just mentioned something about parking, which as menial as that sounds at the auction, can be a little bit stressful and crazy. So on our website, we have a list of all the auction locations. I would suggest scouting that out. A lot of times we have information about parking. If you go to foreclosure.info/resources, and I think it's called auction locations. So I think we've got a lot of information there. As silly as it sounds, like you go to downtown Dallas at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's not super obvious where to park every time. It's not super obvious where the foreclosure sale is going to be. I mean, in Dallas, there's 4 prominent sides of the building. Make sure you're on that north side of the building. So, all right, indeed. Paul, anything else to talk about in auctions?
Just shoot us some questions. If you have any questions, hit the chat box in your bottom left of the website, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Tomorrow's the only day of the month where we might not answer you right away because we're out on site everywhere.
Yep.
But we're here today right now to answer, and hopefully we'll try to answer you quickly tomorrow as well.
Awesome. Jack, anything else to add?
I would say, too, after you leave the auction and let's say you don't get anything, don't get discouraged. We do have a list in most counties already started for January. Get that list, go drive the next 5 or 6 houses that afternoon, be the first one to knock on the door and take a look at it. Start your research for the January auction, especially with the holidays coming up. Get an early jump.
Yep, that's a great reminder. January, we usually see a huge decrease in attendance for that auction. We're already projecting higher number of postings, so that'll be abnormal. And so I would, like Jack said, make sure you get the list. You can start driving today if you want it, right? We've already got a lot of postings for our major counties out. So I'd encourage everybody to start marketing and start talking to people today to try to get those properties either before the auction or at least learn and start doing your underwriting. Like Jack said, we've got holidays coming up, and man, the way the auction comes up on you, it's like, hey, we've got Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're at auction, and so you don't have that typical 2-week buffer to handle things. So, all right, guys, I don't have anything else. If anybody else has questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. Send us an email, give us a call, give us a chat, send Jack a text message if you want. We check the mailbox once a week. So any way you can get in touch with us, do it. We're happy to answer any questions. But we'll end this webinar right now. And just remember, don't pay retail for real estate.
See y'all Tuesday.
Thanks, guys.